Get Gutsy, episode number 137 with Elizabeth DiAlto on Untaming Yourself and Bone Deep Knowing. Welcome to Get Gutsy. I'm your host, Jenny Fennig, and I am so excited to be on this journey with you. A cutting-edge show blending business and spirituality, Get Gutsy serves up a potent blend of stories, lessons, and tips to help you make a massive impact in the world through your soul's work and your inspired life. No more going it alone, no more excuses. The world needs more brave women saying yes to leadership. Are you with me? Good. Let's get gutsy now. Hey there, Jenny here. Get gutsy time. That's right. Okay, so I am also pre-recording this intro before I head out to India. And when this episode goes live, I will be in India. I've been talking a lot about it. If you listen to the show, you're like, Jenny's talking about India again. But it is such a significant trip for me. I have dreamed about going to India for 10 years, ever since I read Liz Gilbert's Eat, Pray, Love, and then trained to become a yoga teacher. I did that when I was 30 years old and living in New York City. I am now about to turn 40, and it has happened. Oh my gosh. So when this goes live, I will be in that land. We're doing so many cool things. I'm going to the Taj Mahal. Like, it's just, and one of my oldest, dearest friends we've known each other since we were in middle school. We're going on this adventure together along with some other awesome travelers. We're going with an amazing yoga, wellness, and personal development retreat center called Kripalu. You may know of it. They organized their first ever immersion to India, and I'm learning a lot, and I'm going to be sharing a lot of this wisdom and the tools that I practice with my people, those who join me in trainings and programs and all that kind of stuff. So this is definitely a learning experience for me. It's a growing experience for me, and I appreciate you giving me a little space to share about it. So I knew that I wanted to leave you in good hands while I was away with the types of episodes we are releasing for you. And this week we have the one and only Elizabeth DiAlto. She is rad. She's known for her raw, honest, and grounded approach to self-help and spirituality. She's the founder of Wild Soul Movement. She's the author of Untame Yourself, Untame Yourself. And she's the host of her very own podcast called Untame the Wild Soul Woman. Yeah. She's a teacher, a leader, a speaker, a coach, a trainer, and she also consults for organizations. And she just, I mean, you'll see, you'll see. She's a cool gal. She is outspoken. She is committed to her work, and she really talks about how she has evolved her business and you know interesting initiatives that she's put out there, experiments that she's run, how she has designed the business, and you're going to love it. You're going to love it. I ask specific questions. You should know when I do these episodes, I'm simply following my own curiosity. I'm like, ooh, how'd you do that? What was that all about? That's how I do this show. You can tell we don't do canned questions. It's really a conversation between me and the guest, and then we let you in on the action. So I hope you enjoy the way we do it here. And I know you're going to get a ton from this conversation with Elizabeth DiAlto on Untaming Yourself and Bone Deep Knowing. Enjoy, and I will talk to you next week. I am set for a solo episode. Upon my return from India, I will be turning 40 officially next week, and I've got some things that I want to say to you. Okay? So look forward to that. Keep on being you. Trust the nudges that you are receiving, and know that we've got you. All right. Talk to you soon. Elizabeth DiAlto, welcome to Get Gutsy. So pumped to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you've just been doing some traveling, right?
Yeah.
What do you love about traveling so much?
It depends on the context and the timing, but for me, what I loved about it this round was I'm a deeply internal person. And so sometimes it's really useful for me to drastically switch up the external environment.
Hmm.
So my internal reflections have something totally different to bounce off of. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. So your environment is influencing what you're putting out into the world, what you're experiencing internally.
Yeah, yeah. And also, I live in Southern California and, I forget exactly how my friend Rachel put it the other day, but like, it's just a very homogeneous community and environment that I live in
Hmm.
at the moment. So just like being out and about in the world and different cultures and even just the part of being in transit or being in cities where you get other types of people is so
Yeah,
refreshing.
absolutely. Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. I was raised by a mother who was, I mean, she worked for the airlines. So, yeah, we traveled and she had that kind of in her. And, throughout my life, have just had this. I don't know how it comes up for you, Elizabeth, but for me, it's like this call, like it's just this urging, like I need to go see this place. I've got to get to Asia. I need to go see China and Japan. Or, when this episode goes live, I will literally be in India for the first time. Like, and it was just me following this hunch. Like, I've got to get there. It's like my body is just calling
Yeah.
me there. And so, how does it happen for you? Like, how do you decide the places that you're going to go explore?
Very similar to just what you just described. There, it starts with the curiosity. And even when I first booked this trip, I started knowing that I was going to be running a retreat for my teacher training in Granada, Spain, in like February 17th to 24th. And I knew I had a speaking gig in New York City on March 25th. And so living in California, I'm like, well, might as well just stay in Europe the whole time. I was
I love
like,
that.
where else do I want to go? And for some reason, Portugal was really loud for me. Other parts of Spain, I had not been to Paris, so those are my three stops.
Okay, so let's dive in there. First off, I've been to Granada. Awesome. I love Spain. Prior to me having kids, my husband and I went to a bunch of places in Spain. Prior to that, I was in Barcelona. Like I just think the whole country is fabulous. Okay, so you the teacher training in Granada, Spain, because this is cool to explore. Because a lot of our listeners, entrepreneurs, we're creating things, and I think it's so awesome when you can create the thing around what you want to do anyway. You're like, well, I want to go to Granada, Spain, so why not just do
Yeah.
the teacher training there? So walk us through your process. Like you get the download, then what do you do?
Then I dish it off to my right hand woman, Natanya, to find a place to run it.
Mm-hmm.
I might do bare bones, like minimal research and be like, hey, check out these three places. But
Mm-hmm.
something that I've gotten really good at, really discerning about over the last couple of years is to not mess in the areas where I'm not even in my zone. I'm barely in my zone of competence,
Right. Yep.
So keep me out of that stuff. Let someone else handle the details. And then when it comes time to submitting the credit card and making the big decisions and the final yeses and nos,
Mm-hmm.
I'll step in for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really wise. And I'm guessing you're citing The Big Leap, Gay Hendricks with the whole
Yep.
zone. Okay, okay, yeah. So,
Yeah. Yep.
you listeners out there, if you have not read The Big Leap, like right now, like after you listen to this podcast, go to Amazon or your local bookstore and go get that book and read it. I think it's required reading, especially for entrepreneurs who are interested in remaining entrepreneurs and actually,
Totally.
doing this thing. It's so clear to me when somebody hasn't read it, and I'm like, oh man, you're so upper limiting right now. It's hard to watch. And then as a coach, you know how to guide. So did you already have the teacher training? Was that already created at that point when you were like Granada, Spain, or did you then need to go launch it and get people enrolled who were like, yeah, I want to go to Granada?
That's a good question. I'm trying to remember what came first, the teacher training or Granada? I think Granada. I
Mm-hmm.
think I was launching the teacher training and I have a lot of people all over the world. So I was going to split the retreats anyway. I ran two retreats, one in San Diego, one in Granada.
Mm-hmm.
And I partially was picking a location in Europe because I didn't know if I was going to have people from Europe or other sides of the world or Australia signing up. And I wanted to make the travel a little bit easier. on
Mm-hmm.
people if they did. And the
Mm-hmm.
irony is that my one woman who was in Europe was having a baby at that time, so she didn't come to the retreat. And so the women who all came to Spain all came from the US. So, whatever.
Right.
But it was an adventure. So, but yeah, I created teacher training, and this was my first round. And my women know this about me, and they knew it. Like, it was very clear going in
Mm-hmm.
that I was going to be creating it as I go. And some of it was
Yes.
going to be workshopping, like, does this work? Does it not work? So there was room for that in it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I knew Granada, Spain, and San Diego for the retreats, and then planned the rest from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. It sounds like, I mean, it's the approach I use. I call it like mixing spirit with strategy. Like you're just, you're vibing on something, and then you're being smart with the decisions that you make. And so you were going, in two very far away parts in the world, but you're, pulling people in who are either interested in going to those areas, or it's kind of easy for them to get there, or it's like not easy for them to get there, but they just really want to get there. Like, oh, I'll go to
Totally.
Granada, Spain. I did that earlier this year. I felt this literally. I was in a Kundalini yoga class, and this I get, the voice inside of me that just says it literally, it was like, it's time to lead a retreat in Costa Rica. It was very specific. It wasn't like abroad. It said Costa Rica. And I'd never been to Costa Rica before. But I trusted it. I said, okay. And so I kind of started doing my research, and I put together my mastermind around the Costa Rica experience. And then now I'm doing it again, taking crew to Tulum, Mexico. And I think it's such an important point for our listeners to take in. And one of the best things about being an entrepreneur, like, if you have these desires, you have places you want to go, freaking go. And you're going to have people in your community, in your tribe, who want to go too. And you have to trust that. And, it's a leap of faith for sure when you take out that credit card, sign your name on the dotted line. But when you are listening to that call, that for you, Elizabeth, it's that wild soul, untaming the wild soul. And I want to dive in more to like how you got there. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong.
You really can't go wrong. That's actually my biggest business philosophy. Totally.
Say it again. Like, so just say it in your words. Like, how do you teach this stuff?
So for many years, I was, taking the business courses, doing masterminds. I had a couple different business coaches, and I was really trying to do like the strategies that people said work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just not having the success. And I mean, the success in terms of like ease, making enough money to even like pay my own rent sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I realized, which started to crystallize for me around August of 2013, was I'm going to have to do this my own way. And so I think there's a lot of value in taking the courses and learning the basics, but I think you have to learn the rules so you can break them.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can improvise and integrate. And actually, one of the things I've always loved is taking inspiration from other industries and spending time and studying like other people's creative processes and how other people do businesses in different industries so that I could then synthesize these things and really come up with a way that feels like me.
I love that. Are there particular industries that you really get a lot from?
When I was creating and launching Wild Soul Movement for the first time and rebranding and everything in 2014, the only inspiration at that time for me was December 2013 was the first time Beyoncé had dropped an album that nobody knew about. Like no one had ever done that before.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was this series of videos on YouTube that not even that many people knew about, but there was like 5 themes. I remember one of them being liberation, where she was talking about the creative process. And also it wasn't just the creative process of creating the album, it was creating the woman that she had become through motherhood, through crossing into her 30s. And I was really into her process and her self-expression. And so I love artists. I love listening to comedy podcasts. I love anything where people know, understand, appreciate, and respect that a craft takes time to hone.
Yes.
And overnight results are possible, but they're not going to be for people who want to do something for the long haul.
Yeah, sustainability is so huge. And especially in the space that we're in, this kind of online coaching, teaching, guiding, just doing our thing. You see a lot of like these one-hit wonders or people like just like they have this huge growth. They come out, you're like, whoa, where'd they come from? And then they don't have that foundation underneath, that
Yeah.
strength to be able to ride the waves, because not every launch goes the way that you think it's going to. You may get, quote, some bad advice, or your Facebook ads bomb, or whatever. And so what happens for you at that time. I love what you said. A craft takes time to hone, and I appreciate the Beyonce example. I don't know if you know, but Harvard, what is it, like Harvard Business Review, right? The magazine that they put out, or the journal, whatever they call it. They did a whole piece on that time in Beyonce's career.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. I'd be
Yes,
super
check it
curious to
out.
check that out.
Check it out. I did a workshop with Allie Brown, who was my original mentor when I found this whole world. I did a workshop with her a couple years back called the Repower Workshop, and she gave us that article to study overnight. It was like a 2-day workshop, and she's like, "Here, go study this and come back tomorrow." I was like, "Okay," and so we read
Cool.
it all, and it was about that. It was like examining it, the business connotations and lessons learned, and like why that was so different and successful. And I know you'll get a lot from it. That's cool. So okay, so let's talk about the Wild Soul movement. Let's talk about that. Like, how did you birth that thing?
So back in 2013, I was in this transitional phase of I was still doing fitness stuff, and I just remember reading stuff like Danielle Laporte and thinking, man, she just talks about whatever the hell she wants to talk about. I want to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, oh, I just can. Number one, I can start doing that. And number two, through many years of working in fitness, one of the things that I started to realize was people could follow the diets, the exercise programs, they could do everything they're supposed to do and get results, but inevitably some kind of mental or emotional, something to do with their job or a relationship or financial situation could come up and so quickly and easily and swiftly wipe out the physical results.
Mm-hmm.
I became way more interested in what was going on in the internal world than the external world.
Mm-hmm.
How could the internal stuff uproot the external stuff so swiftly?
Mm-hmm.
And so as I began to study that my own self, like subtle body stuff, energy work, things like that,
Mm-hmm.
while simultaneously being really curious about femininity and archetypes and how masculine and feminine energy relate to each other, and some of the societal structures and systems like patriarchy, just all these different intersecting places that I knew there were threads that tied them together.
Mm-hmm.
And mainly out of my own curiosity for my own healing and evolution. I had read, actually, and I recommend this book to people all the time. Pam Slim has a book called Body of Work. And
Yeah.
I mean, I literally only got like 2 chapters in, but what it was inviting you to do, there were all these exercises to take a look at all the various things you've done over the course of your life. And I've worked in different industries. I started out in a couple different kinds of sales,
Mm-hmm.
and then I moved into fitness and, all kinds of things. And so that book had all these exercises for like tying the threads together. And I literally remember being on an airplane and being like, oh, these things actually do complement each other in ways that I had not imagined. And so that's how the wheels started spinning and started percolating. And then I got invited to be part of this like audition for this online fitness reality show that was kind of like Shark Tank meets American Idol, but for fitness people. Called Fit or Flop. I don't know if they still do it, but I had to come up with a class format, and that was for my audition.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was really into Danielle Laporte's Desire Map.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was, again, on an airplane. I was like, okay, these are my core desired feelings. And at the time, they were connected, free, wildly feminine, and ease. I'm like, how can I use these to create a class?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I started to get the idea for how could I use the body, but create like a work in, not just a work out.
A work in. I like that.
Yeah, and I had other influences. I had a friend who'd been an instructor of something called Intensati, where they used
Yep.
affirmations while they worked out. And so I loved the idea of incorporating a mantra. With Intensati, it's like they use so many different ones, and I'm like, I could barely keep up with the choreography and the words. So I was like, what if I just used one mantra and had one theme?
Mm-hmm.
And so Wild Soul Movement was born out of my desire to stay with the body and use movement to help people connect with themselves and have it not necessarily be a workout, but, how can we engage the senses, use mantras, use movement to help people connect with themselves, heal, and like have all these revelations, but from their own experience rather than it being so cerebral and so mental.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Wow. I like knowing more about that journey. I want our listeners to take that in, that it is a journey and that everything is connected. I have not read Pam's book, but I appreciate you bringing that up, Body of Work. I love the name of it. And I think that is one of the most powerful pieces that we can see, that, even the freaking job that we had in high school at the, I answered phones for Domino's Pizza. Like that somehow that is connected to me now. Like I have a good phone voice. Like I can do that thing. I can take sales over the phone. Okay. And,
Totally.
it's like, okay, they're not just random. If you can like really trace that golden thread throughout them all and tell a provocative story around it and show people that you care and that you want to help them, that's really how the movement gets built. So walk me through now, like just really your business model. Like what are the different elements? Like you've got Wild Soul Movement, but I know you've got your podcast and a book, and then you've got your teacher training. Just what are those elements that go under the movement?
So I love this. I love actually having a model, because it took many years of throwing things up against the wall to see what sticks, testing out many different offerings, not just to see if people liked it, but if I actually wanted to do it.
Totally.
Like I've done some things that were really successful, but I just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So that didn't make it into the model. So I have a podcast, which I love. It's been the way of creating content that's easiest for me to stay consistent. I enjoy it. I'm insatiably curious about people and the topic of the show, which is reclaiming and redefining womanhood for the 21st century. And so it's really the first time I've ever been able to stick with something consistently.
Me too.
I produce something that comes out like once a week. We're going on, probably by the time this comes out, we'll be approaching our 2-year anniversary, and I've never missed a week.
Oh my God. I want to like high five you, and I'm a few months behind you. I'm like maybe 6 months behind you, but me too. It just feels like I can do it. Like I can actually do it. I'm not going to flake out on it. I like it still. I'm still in. Okay. All right. Awesome. So your podcasting journey has been an amazing one for you.
Yeah, that's been super great. And then everything is kind of born out of the podcast. Plus, here's the other thing. So Wild Soul Movement is a virtual program, and the price point is $9.97, which may or may not be changing this year. Not everyone can afford that. And then I have higher end offerings. I have weekend retreats called Untame Yourself weekends that I do a couple times a year. I'll run like a week-long retreat or something. There has to be a compelling reason for it. I haven't had one since 2015. Now that I have teacher training, that's a thing. I have a mentorship that I run every year. So it's basically my offerings range from like $9.97 to $10,000.
Right.
And so there was a piece of me. This is one of the reasons why I wrote a book and why I love having a podcast, because I'm like, I need stuff for people who there's just no chance in hell they're in a position for the other offerings at this time.
Right.
Right. But the other resources could be so valuable that who knows? It could help them get there at some point.
Yes.
But then every once in a while, I like to do like a pay what you can day, or, I run a scholarship contest for the program or whatever it is. So that's basically the model. I have a core online virtual program. I have a mentorship that I run once a year, and I tend to fill that in November and December, and we start in January. Teacher training, I tend to fill from like July to September. We start that in September or October. I love a 9-month container for my higher end programs. I think there's something really useful and symbolic about like that 9 months, that birthing time period. Also, I straight up don't want to do something for a whole year. I need a couple months where I'm not running stuff.
Yeah. I feel you. I feel you on that.
And so that's the model, and it also leaves space for me to do other things. I try to launch Wild Soul Movement once a year. Last year, I didn't feel like it, and so I did this massive Pay What You Can Day, it's like unheard of. Who does a Pay What You Can Day for a $9.97 program? Right. I was advised not to do it, and I just couldn't help myself. And it was really funny, because I remember being like, based on the feedback, like comments when I was starting to announce it and letting people know it was going, I'm like, I think about 150 people will sign up for this. Almost 700 people signed up.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. And here's what was cool. Just like giving people the opportunity they wouldn't normally have had throughout the process, addressing like the guilt and the shame people feel about not being able to pay full price, and just encouraging people like, you don't owe me anything, but just show up and do the work.
Yes.
You want to like make it worth my while, show up and use the damn program. And that was really awesome. Yes. So that created a really amazing synergy, loyalty in my community. And also too, because even with the women who were in the program before I did that, I checked in with the community first. And I was like, are you guys going to feel gypped if I do a one pay what you can day? Like, you all paid full price, and someone's going to be able to pay $17 if they want to, you know? So, but it was cool. And we all kind of got to bond together and be like, no, let's definitely do this.
Nice.
Let's definitely open up the gates for some sisters that are just, this is their only way to get in, and we feel good about it. So it was a cool kind of community bonding thing that I hadn't anticipated either. And so those are the offerings for now. I'm also launching an Oracle deck in June, which will be just like another thing. It'll be $33 that someone gets like a little deeper peek into and way to relate into the wild soul work. That is, again, it's not a whole course, it's not a whole program, it's not a retreat, but it's still deep stuff.
Yes.
Useful.
Absolutely. And it's like, that will be somebody's lifeline, you know, until or if they get to that point where they're like, it's time to go deeper. I actually have, you know, Gabby Bernstein, I don't know how, I know she has at least one deck, one's her Miracles Now deck, and I literally have the card in front of me. And I have done deep work with Gabby. I went through her Spirit Junkie Masterclass levels 1 and 2, and it was awesome. And yet the deck is really cool too, because it's just like, it's a tangible thing that you can, you just, you know, you pull out, and I'll pull out a card sometimes just for myself, or often I'll pull it out when I'm starting to work with, you know, with a group, like, all right, here's the card that's going to energetically guide us for this session. So I love that you're doing the deck. Okay, I have a couple, just like, because you and I talked about before, I pushed record on this. Like, I just follow my own curiosity on this because I learned so much from my guests. I'm like, ooh, so the pay what you can day, for anyone who is listening was like, ooh, I want to do that. I want to try that. You know, what technical pieces did you have to get in place to make that happen? You know, because it's like, you can't just say, oh, the price is whatever, and like people click the button and they pay that. How do you make that happen technically?
Listen, there was probably a way better system than ours.
But you did it with 700 people, so you did something.
I was going to tell you, we just set up a PayPal donation link.
Oh, okay.
And then literally had to export the contacts from PayPal, get them into our email list, reach out to people. And so many people, their PayPal email is not the actual email that they use.
Yes.
So we also just had to deal with knowing that there would be plenty of people who would not get their confirmation email.
Yes.
And like maybe weeks or months would go by and they'd be like, where's my course? And we'd be like, here you go. Thanks for letting us know.
Yeah, you came out of the woodwork. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm sure there are more sophisticated ways to do it. And we didn't go the sophisticated route.
Because why would a wild soul do that? You know, you just kind of have to just like,
right.
You know, balls to the wall, just go for it. Okay. And I love that you went out to your people and just said, hey, like, how do you feel about this? Did anybody pay like the $997? I'm just curious, like, what was kind of like the average price?
The average was about $65, and it ranged. Like, literally, there were people who paid $5. I think the most someone paid, it was somewhere between $400 and $600. No one paid full price.
Nobody paid. Okay. So it just kind of showed you, all right, there's this audience of people who are out here who want to do this, and they're not in a position, or they don't feel like they are in a position, right. You know how it is with money, to go for it for whatever reason, like conditioning, a partner who's like, you can't spend money, you know, whatever. And you just opened up your work to 700 plus more people who are then, you know, doing the work and having their lives changed, and then spreading the word about your work to people in their community.
And, you know, it was interesting how many people, which this is the part that was shocking. I didn't know how many people were like, oh my God, I've been saving up to do this program. I can't believe I can get in now. And like, I'm like crying. My right-hand person and I were like crying all day. The messages, the emails we were receiving, the people who were like, I don't know, I feel so guilty, and working people through those feelings and stuff. It was a very cathartic and transformational experience for us and for the community. Even just to get a glimpse, like the stories, people emailing me like, oh my God, like I had this happen, like this is why. Because you know what? In our industry, I think there's a lot of people, and like you just said, like, you know how people are with money.
Yep.
You know, one of my mentorship, this was interesting. We got an email. I get very few customer service issues or disgruntled emails or anything like that, but every once in a while, you're going to rub someone the wrong way. And when I fill my mentorship, I do not let people know up front how much it's going to be. And the
Right.
reason why I don't is I just straight up don't want people counting themselves out
Hmm.
because of a number.
Right.
Because so many people just like, if someone has never invested in coaching before or a mentorship or anything like that, their perception of what it might cost might just be so skewed because they simply don't know what they don't know.
Hmm.
And I just don't want people counting themselves out.
Hmm.
I'd rather invest like 30 to 45 minutes of my time on an enrollment call to have us find out that the person like can't afford it or whatever.
Hmm.
But at least we had a cool conversation. We got to connect. It was useful and a great experience for both of us.
Hmm.
Than not even getting to have that touch with someone
Hmm.
based on what, their perception of money is.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I have people who don't like that, and that's okay with me. But it's just so fascinating, the opportunities when we go, what can I do to kind of neutralize the money thing or take it out of the equation or make it easier?
Hmm.
Kind of gives people an opportunity to see if they really aren't showing up because of the money or if
Hmm.
it's something else.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I've found it's rarely about the money.
Yeah.
What I've seen, because I call my mentorship really, I have a mastermind, as I mentioned, called Glow, and we just completed enrollment. Like when we're recording this, like literally we started today, because we're recording this on April 4th. It's going live in a few weeks, but woo! You mean I honestly feel like the enrollment, like just keeping myself in enrollment for something like that, just it keeps me. I get so much information. Like I
Totally.
grow so much from that. And I've
Yep.
gone through periods where I'm like, I'm done. I'm never going to do this again because it's just like, it's just so intense. And, you come head to head with people's stuff and you're making sure like their stuff isn't your stuff. But,
Yep.
because I have my own coaching school, like I train people to become coaches. I feel like it's like my responsibility to like, keep doing this. And plus, I like it. It's
Yes.
not an obligation. I
Yeah.
genuinely enjoy connecting with people, and especially when they're the right people, when you're just like, thank you, God. Like, we were meant to meet, and this is how it had to happen.
Yep.
So it's just, wow. It's so intense. And especially when you're selling premium and you're offering a premium experience with a price that goes along with that, it's wild. Talk about wild soul. Like I see some wild
Yeah.
soul stuff going down in that, and I just know that in my own journey, if I hadn't been willing to walk through the fire, when my opportunity came to invest, to work with a coach at a high level, be in a mastermind, 5-figure plus investment, I never would be here. Like I wouldn't be talking to you right now, Elizabeth. I would
Totally.
have quit a long time ago. I would have had to figure something else out. I would have had to go back into my corporate life, not spend the time that I want to with my kids and not be fulfilling my potential here. And so it's like we're doing such a great service in the world, and yet it does come with certain people getting triggered because we're not doing it the way they want us to do it.
Yeah, and but here's the other thing though. I do see some people. I'm super not into people shaming people around money either.
Yes.
Sometimes someone's just legitimately not ready to make an investment in something, and
Yes.
sometimes people do need more time to think about something, or they do need
Yes.
to talk to their spouse. And I
Yes.
do hear of stories of people like really making people feel like crap
Mhm.
about their decision making process. And
Mhm.
I don't have any tolerance for that. Like I want to respect where I want to lovingly push someone and
Mhm.
question where they're coming from,
Yeah.
but I certainly don't want to shame someone for where they are right now,
Right. Right. Yeah, that's a very good point. And I agree that people can, you do want to check in with your partner. I'm married, and we have conversations too where I see some things that crop up because I've been there as well, so I've seen myself in it, is especially for women, if we're married, if we're with a male, that energetically I've seen where people are almost like asking for permission
Yeah.
instead of really having that conversation. And it's almost like, is that your dad or is that your husband or your boyfriend or your partner? There's some of that weird like residual patriarchy hanging around, and it's hard if the money quote isn't your own. Let's say you didn't generate it from your own efforts, right, from your own business or from your own career. It can get a little tricky there. But a piece of my teachings is really talking to my clients, my people, and saying, you've got to come at it from a place of strength, that you're not coming in like, do you think this is a good idea, and like
Yeah.
your own energy around that, or like, listen, babe, wow, we've got to talk. You know how much this work is important to me, and that I know that I can't do it alone, and just really coming at it like you would an investor or somebody whose blessing you'd want, but not whose permission you're seeking.
Yeah, totally.
Yes. Okay, so your teacher training, how's that going?
It's amazing. I love my women.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting. I'm super into the energetics of things. And
Mm-hmm.
because of the way
Mm-hmm.
I show up and I run my business and our mission and all those things, my
Mm-hmm.
people are just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, so we're just wrapping up in the month of March pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them have already run their first classes.
Mm-hmm.
And the feedback is coming in, and now we're navigating like the fears of showing up and being seen and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And again, my culture is a little bit different. It's not like a yoga teacher training where it's like, okay, cool, here's your piece of paper that says you're 200 hours certified, good luck figuring out how you're going to do this and make anything of yourself in the industry.
Right.
We're keeping it going because these women, they're now like part of the Wild Soul family.
Mm-hmm.
How are we spreading this mission? How are we getting it out in the world? How are we focusing on the service aspect of it?
Mm-hmm.
And how are you creating it in a way that's you? So that was like a big focus for me. This isn't about me cloning Elizabeth DiAlto. This is
Right.
about me being the steward for the Wild Soul Movement work and empowering and mobilizing people to like absolutely be themselves and
Yes.
sharing it with the world,
Yes, totally. How do you feel? How do you enroll for that? Is that application? Like, how do people get into that?
Right. People don't believe when I say this, but here's what I did. I made a sales page. Like literally, I pulled up just like a blank page on my website. There were like a bunch of bullet points, what's included, when are the retreats, what's on the calls, what's the curriculum. And I did like a Zoom info and Q&A call. Some people tuned in live. I recorded it. I embedded that on the page. For that, I did put the price point on the page, and that was that. Didn't do applications. I didn't do enrollment calls. My philosophy around that was if people want to teach Wild Soul Movement, I'm willing to teach them. There was an option, like if you need to talk to me, if you have any questions, I'm happy to hop on the phone with you. I did that with like 2 people, and they weren't enrollment calls. They were just like, do you have questions? Let me answer them for you. Are you in? Cool. No, great. And that was that. And I had 14 women in the first class, or 15, 14. And yeah.
And you're ready for more.
Ready for more.
You're ready for more. Yeah, I think it's when we get to that point in our journey where we're realizing, like, I have a thing, like I have this system, this approach, and there's people who actually they want to do it too. They want to learn under me. That's that ultimate, leverage and scale. And I feel like that's what I have with my coaching school, and it's exciting to be on that journey. So as you look ahead, 2017, what are you most excited about?
I'm most excited for the next round of teacher training because after this first one, you just learn so much. And I'm also, because part of it is one of the goals in launching teacher training was to be able to develop a signature Wild Soul Movement weekend workshop. And so I am developing that this year. So I'll be personally running probably about 5 or 6 of those between now and the end of the year, starting in May. And then I'll be able to teach the women how to run them once I even know what they're going to be.
Yeah, that's so fantastic. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, it just sounds like you're in the flow, you're in the zone. What has been like your biggest kind of, I don't know if you can boil it down to one, but like biggest lesson learned on your business journey? Like what has been the thing that you're like, whoa, that was huge?
The only thing I have that distinguishes me from anyone else is simply that I am myself. And so the more I can just allow myself to just be me, shine through, do things my way, not apologize when I'm not sorry, don't say yes when I'm not a yes, be super comfortable saying no to a lot of people, be willing to be judged and misinterpreted left, right, and around the corner because it's always going to happen, and still be totally cool and comfortable and confident with who I am. That's the biggest thing.
Boom, boom. Y'all just go back and, hit the little like rewind button on there a little bit and just listen to that again. That is pretty much all you need to know in life. Oh gosh, Elizabeth. Okay, so how can people find out more about you? Where do you want to guide them?
UntameYourself.com is the general hub for all the things. You can find the podcast there, the book there. There's links to the Facebook page. I have a free Facebook group for the general community. You can find me on all the social medias if you look for @Liz DiAlto. So wherever it is that you like to engage, I'm pretty easy to find. I'm basically the only DiAlto, DiAlto, when you type it in.
Boom. Yeah. All right, everybody. Untameyourself.com. And what prompted, I know you're at Liz DiAlto on the socials, but now you like to be Elizabeth. You like to be called Elizabeth. What prompted that evolution for you?
So the meaning of the name Elizabeth is God is satisfaction. And I don't remember when I started looking that up around the summer of 2015. And when I found that out, I'm like, I think I'm ready for an upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, my middle name, my given middle name is Elizabeth. When I got married, I was like, oh my God, like I was like Jenny Amen was that was my name, right? It was Jennifer really, but I always went by Jenny, and I was Jennifer Elizabeth Amen. And then I wanted to take my husband's last name. He didn't encourage me or need me to do that. That was my choice. But I remember feeling like I can't lose Amen. Like I've been Amen my whole life. Who will I be without Amen? And so I kind of like released Elizabeth, but when I still feel it energetically. And so my legal name now is Jennifer Amen Fenig, although I go by Jenny, but I gotta love the Elizabeths of the world because I'm with you. I'm with you. It's in me too. But I didn't know that God is satisfaction, so thanks for that. All right, our finale question, Elizabeth. You are one gutsy woman. Wild Soul Movement is all you. I want to know, what's your gutsiest move you've ever made, and how does it inspire your life and work today?
So when I launched Wild Soul Movement, I literally went all in. I sat down, kind of like you were mentioned this earlier about someone going to their husband. I don't have a husband, but I have a mom. And I remember going to my mom with a business plan and being like, listen, I'm either going to go to a bank with this business plan, or I'm going to come to the Bank of Margaret DiAlto for a loan. Because this is the thing. This is actually the thing. Of all the things of the years, there's just like in my bones, I know. And so I'm going all in on this thing. And I literally did. I borrowed $25,000 from my mom. I ended up needing an extra $5,000 and to like do it the way I wanted to do it, go all in, launch this thing, beta test it, do the website, all the stuff. So literally like May 14th, 2014 was like, well, this thing better work, because if it doesn't, I'm going to have to get a job.
And pay my mom back. Yep.
Because like I'm 30 grand in the hole here and it just needs to work.
Yeah.
And what was cool is that the first launch, which like it wasn't even a major launch. I did like a 10-day Instagram and Facebook challenge, and that's how I launched it. But the first launch did like 41 or like $44,000 or something like that. So I literally like just made it, and I was like, great, I could do this.
You just thought, and like big props to your mom for taking a chance on her daughter, and for believing in you. Have you always had that close relationship?
Yeah, 100%. My mom, one of the things she's always said is, what better thing could I possibly invest in than you? Wow. So I remember the first time she ever said it to me, crying my face off. And I know the second part of your question was, how has that impacted you? And it was just that bone deep knowing that I knew that Wild Soul Movement was the thing. It could have been really scary. I wasn't scared. Like, I actually wasn't scared. I actually felt like it was a calling. This is what I'm here to do. So I'm just going to move forward on this, and I'm going to trust. So that like 9 month, that was also like a 9-month incubation period where I had the idea for Wild Soul Movement to when it was out in the world. And that was really my first big like life training module in trust, and just trust. Keep going, put one foot in front of the other. Like, you can't mess this up.
Thank you for sharing your journey, Elizabeth. It's been awesome getting to know you better. I've seen you, seen those moves you've been making online. I remember you and I don't know if you remember this, but I went to the reveal, Megan Watterson's like, yes, in New York City. I brought my daughter, who was like a few weeks old, because I think it was in the month of May. She was born April 16th, but I had gone to Megan's retreat at Kripalu a few months before that, when I was super pregnant, and I just felt calls like, I need to be at that reveal retreat in New York, and you were there, and I'm so happy that I've had you on this show, Get Gutsy. You definitely epitomize what it is to get gutsy, be brave, do your thing, one foot in front of the other. So I send you so many blessings this year and beyond as you touch all the lives that you're meant to touch, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And thank all you listeners out there. What are you going to do to embrace that wild soul that lives within you? How will you be brave and have that bone deep knowing that the next step that's in front of you is yours to take? This is Jenny Fenig sending you so much love, light, and faith as you get gutsy. I will see you next time.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and you're listening to Get Gutsy with Jenny Fenig. Gutsy leaders unite and ignite.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Get Gutsy as much as I enjoyed creating it for you. Are you responsible for leading and growing your spiritual business? If so, I have a free tool for you that will help you spread your message like wildfire. It's called the Sacred Marketing Puzzle, and it's a one-page PDF guide that simplifies the often mysterious and confusing world of marketing. When you use sacred marketing tools to amplify your message, you'll provide huge value to your tribe and grow your business. What are you waiting for? Go to jennyfennig.com/puzzle to get yours instantly. That's jennyfennig.com/puzzle. Gutsy leaders, unite.